Yep.
All right, perfect. What's going on, everyone? What's up?
What up, Robbie? What up,
What up,
Grit?
Mike? What up, Payne? What's up,
What's up?
Grit Colt?
How you
Today
doing,
we're gonna
Robbie?
do a weekend special of Crypto World Radio. We're here joined by Grit Colt. He's a big tech head, just like myself. And today we're gonna talk about things like the AI trends, augmented reality, virtual reality, all those things, and how that pertains to crypto. So I want to welcome you guys. Thank you all for showing up and taking the time out of your lovely Saturday for joining us here. It's a beautiful Saturday here in South Florida. A bit cloudy, but the wind is nice. So I decided to do today's episode while I'm out here on my porch just enjoying the view. So with that
So you're
being
gonna
said,
have the wind blow into the microphone while we're talking. Is that what you're saying?
no. I'm saying I'm just here enjoying the wind. Is it bothering you guys? Like,
No, we're good. I'm just playing
okay,
around.
okay. Okay, perfect, man. I see someone here is wanting to join the conversation. Gentlemen, if anyone here in the crowd wants to join the conversation, feel free to do so. Just click that mic to request to speak, and come up and join the roundtable. I really much enjoy doing these roundtables where it's just a couple of fellas talking about all things tech. So without further ado, Grit Cult, what's going on, my man? Welcome to the show. I know we've ran into each other about once or twice in other spaces a couple of months back during the whole FTX collapse, bro. What's going on, man? How you feeling today, brother?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just been trying to get my 10K steps in. But yeah, I remember we briefly touched base a couple of months ago. Yeah, it feels like ages ago now. But yeah, that was good. Good times.
Mike, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just it's a little cold up here, but things are good, man. And just hanging out, checking out the space, and we're gonna go to the gym after this. So, Grit, tell everybody a little bit about your background in crypto and technology and stuff like that, because I know you have a lot of interesting insights, in regards to these topics.
Cool. Yeah. So my background is very much in consulting. I was consulting with very large corporations in terms of just tech transformation at a very large scale. And then I started working with much smaller companies, SaaS companies, cutting edge stuff. And then I started working in crypto. Most recent kind of company I've been working with was a metaverse company. And I was there for a number of months, just kind of helping them, what was the best way to go to market and go to strategy. So that's what I kind of do professionally. And on Twitter, I've been posting a lot of memes, but alongside that, I put out a lot of content regarding, just very general kind of macro kind of trends, and, business kind of strategy. And the most recent one, which I'm, posting today or have posted today, is one on how Google can pivot to beat OpenAI. So that's just an example of me, my background, and what I do.
Grit Cult. So we can follow that up with things like augmented reality. Given that you have experiences working in the digital asset space, when it pertains, right? That's kind of my catchphrase. When it pertains to things like the metaverse, right?
Yeah.
Like as I'm sure you know, the trend that's going on in the background in VC is funding these metaverse products that could eventually integrate with things like OpenAI and also augmented reality. And there's quite a few products like Saga XYZ, and they're putting their whole framework within the crypto industry to focus on things like the metaverse and things like GameFi. So eventually these products want to integrate into web 2 products where you have headsets, more like the hardware component. So tell us a little bit about that with whatever you've seen as far as augmented
Yeah.
reality goes, and how that could take effect into not the next cycle of technology, but more along like the 2030s, because I do feel that we're going into sort of the next industrial age when it comes to technology, right? So like in the early 90s you had the computer, and then the late 90s you had like the PlayStation, the Xbox, 3D graphics and all these things. And I think the next evolution of all of that is going to be augmented reality, where of course you're going to be using blockchain technology, but more on the back end, where the front end user is not really going to take notice of that. But you're going to have cool things like NFT implementations, and say you have a device, right, and then you say open device, and sort of like Pokemon, right, you summon your NFTs in this little augmented world of yours, and you take a walk like how you are right now, taking your 10K steps, and you sort of summon your 10 NFTs right along with you, and they have conversations. Do you think that's something that could be implemented within the next 10 to 15 years?
On the later stage of those, yes. I don't think it's as soon as other people may say. There's a few reasons for that, and one of the main kind of reasons is there has been a huge amount of like venture capital going into metaverse company. I've worked with a few companies, that were the direct result of that. But I think what's happening now, we are, I put out 6 months ago that we're going to enter an AI bubble. Recently, Google's most recent purchase was $300 million for an AI startup. So I think we're seeing huge amount of inflows of capital into AI, and I think what's going to happen is AR and the metaverse in general is going to take a sidestep, and I think that's not a bad thing. Mainly because I just don't think I've worked with the Oculus, I work with the Pika, whatever the fuck it's called. I work with these headsets. The headsets, in my opinion, they might use really good like Snapdragon chips, but they're just not there in the same capacity as like actual monitors. So there's a huge kind of degradation in quality in using full VR, and there's other issues like motion sickness, and just feeling very sick when you have these headsets on for a prolonged time. So I don't think full virtual immersive virtual reality is going to be like a huge kind of thing. I think that requires a paradigm shift of where like when you first use Chat GPT, there's a paradigm shift. You kind of realize like, oh shit, this is different. That's what's needed in the metaverse space. I don't think we have the infrastructure in terms of headsets there yet. Augmented reality is slowly picking up in the background. So I think Amazon have contracted a company to develop enterprise level headsets um, for their factory workers. Google still has Google Glass going on, but only for like enterprise level clients. So I think augmented reality is going to be a lot sooner than yeah than a full on metaverse, and I think AI is going to get more development quicker than both of those. So that's where I kind of see it going. I think if you've got an AI startup right now, it'd be pretty good to get some AI engineers and try to develop a product and try to get bought out and exit the company pretty quickly. But if you're in the metaverse, yeah, there's like loads of hurdles yet to go in. There has to be like a proper use case yet, in my opinion, to be done. I mean, I've played around with it. I work with companies. I still think it's very early.
Yeah, it definitely is. Wabi, I wanted to address something you said. I absolutely agree. I think people need to realize this. I believe that we had been on about a 12-year period of stagnation that is absolutely ending right now. And I believe the next decade is going to see more innovation than we saw in the mid 90s to 2010, possibly two or threefold from what we're seeing right now. And I think the metaverse itself, even though it's early, you have companies like Meta who literally put their entire investment around the metaverse. So a whole new world is going to be created.
Yeah.
And it's a really fascinating topic. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Britt, metaverse, crypto, AI, I think we're going to see a lot of synergy there. Do you see a good synergetic? I see it myself. I look at AI and crypto as a left and right arm. in the regards to how they could work with each other, and maybe metaverse, for example, would be the body of that, or at least a part of the body. But how do you see the interaction between AI and
Yeah.
crypto coming together?
Okay, so yeah, I have a few comments on what you just said. I think what what you initially said about a 10 to 12 year bull run is like, yeah, that's I think 100% on the nose. I think we are going to see like, another kind of golden age of Pax Americana. Um, like the world as it seems now is like China's not going to be able to keep up with manufacturing. I mean, they've got a cost of living crisis coming soon with an aging population, and Russia's doing Russia. So I think the main hub of infrastructure is going to move back into North America. So that's Canada, America, and Mexico. I think that's going to be the main kind of hub for the next wave of innovation to come to from. The last wave of innovation was also from America, automobiles, and then it went back into East Asia and Germany. But I think what's going to happen now, like you said, yeah, there's going to be an influx of AI. A lot of people try to create this sort of, this black and white picture of crypto on one side, AI on the other side. I think that's completely false.
Okay.
It's not a dichotomy at all, in my opinion. I think what's going to happen with AI is like people ask me, should I start an AI startup? I'm like, if you haven't already, it's a good time for you. But if you don't really have one, it's going to be a bit more difficult because there is a lot more capital, but there's also going to be a lot more competition. And what that generally
What type of
means,
synergies? Are there any synergies there, or is that just something in my imagination?
I mean, there could be synergies in terms of like capital allocation and just general products. But what we're going to see is like the entire paradigm of software itself shifting, in my opinion. So, like, you basically interact with software as a tool. Now you're basically going to interact with an AI that's going to help you achieve your goal, and it's going to choose a tool, for instance. So I think that's going to be a huge kind of shift. So when you want to put in a trade, maybe you can talk to an AI to put in a trade, but a lot of the supply chain, a lot of the infrastructure is going to change, or it should change around AI. So artificial intelligence should be the main driver of making business decisions. I've worked with billion-dollar companies at a very high level. You have like a board of about 50 people, all old dudes, or people that you kind of ask yourself how the fuck they kind of got to that position, and they're just making all these wrong decisions. I've worked on projects where implementation of software has been delayed 5 years. That's very common in the large corporate world. But what we're going to see is that AI is going to start taking more of a kind of control back from these more white collar jobs. I think blue collar, you have to build machines, and then it has to learn. Then you have to like improve the machine. That's the longer kind of feedback loop. Whereas whereas white collar stuff, it's all on the computer. It's all software. Software is going to be the first thing that's going to be shifted, in my opinion. In terms of how it works with crypto, I think I don't know. That's just too complex. But in terms of golden age, crypto and AI are both going to help get us to that golden age.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that everything is going digital. I don't think there's anything we could do to stop that. I mean, I am against, as you know, a lot of these things that, like CBDCs and things of that nature. But let's face the facts. I mean, within the next 10, 15 years, cash will most likely be completely drawn out of existence. And now there is the threat that for example, we have these hot air balloons flying over America right now, which could do an EMP attack and completely paralyze our entire infrastructure. So it is a tremendous risk, in my opinion, to go fully digital, but I don't see anything stopping that. And I'm pretty sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think we are going to go more and more digital. Yeah, it's just easier. Digitalization of everything's just happening, and with AI, is just going to completely like eat this up much faster. So I think we're going to get back on the upward slope after this next crash or whatever, if there is a crash. And yeah, it's going to be like it's going to melt faces, and yeah, it's going to go for a while, I think. And also depends on like the space race as well. If that like these things just keep going around, so like it may have died down now, but like with improvements in software and technology, again that might pick up again. In terms of like Chinese EMPs, I'm not as scared of that. I don't think that'll happen, mainly because it would be, a mistake on China's, a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it would be like nuking your own trading account because we provide them with the majority of their revenue. So, I mean, a lot of people think that, you hear a lot of drama that we're going to war with them within the next 2 years. But when you realize that that's basically decimating their own economy. So I just don't see it. If anything, I think the maniacs in the U.S. would be more inclined to start a war than China would be to us. But I just don't buy into any of this fear porn because I just think the world is too interconnected these days for there to be any type of global, uh, inflammation in which supply chains are shut off and both countries stop receiving what they need from each other. We're paralyzed both countries. It makes no sense. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it would be worse for China, mainly because they have a weaker army, and also it's like they import more things than a lot of other people. People say they're a large exporter, but they're also a large importer, and trade is vital for them. I think if there is a war, I don't think there will be. I don't think they will invade Taiwan. They may provoke it, but there won't be a full-on war. They won't try to capture it. It's like they're running out of time. The population's aging like crazy, and like they still have COVID in certain ways, but they kind of come to realize like they can't continue doing lockdowns because the economy is just getting fucked.
I have a question.
And great, I have one more
Oh no, go
question for
ahead,
you going
Michael.
back on topic, and we'll throw it back to Wabi. Do you think that this is my feeling? I believe that all assets eventually are going to be put on the blockchain. Do you believe that's going to happen?
I mean, I can see it happen, but not anytime soon. That like again, there has to be a lot more kind of infrastructure kind of built around blockchain space. Right now, like there's a lot of like hurdles in terms of just like ease of use. If you build your own system, like maybe I think what will happen is enterprise level blockchains will happen when like data storage is cheaper and computation is distributed. But I just don't see that happening anytime soon. I
And
think
yeah, I remember the thread you did on Elon Musk potentially turning into a DAO. Remember that thread you did? That was a really good thread, by the way. Do you still believe that's a possibility?
the Tesla DAO. I mean, I think he can do that, like turn Tesla into a DAO. So basic recap of that is off my head is he starts monetizing flows of energy, let's say, and then he puts that in the blockchain, and then once that's in the blockchain, people start investing in it and start doing the robo taxi kind of thing, start creating an economy out of that, very similar to how Uber could become a blockchain company, for instance. But yeah, I think it's a possibility. I just don't think like the amount of infrastructure that needs to be built, like it won't be done anytime soon. It won't be a possibility anytime soon. Like you have to kind of build, loads of different things in terms of where the information flows are redirected. So, I mean, again, it's just one of those silver lining kind of scenarios, I guess.
Do you think it's a question of time or feasibility?
Time. It's
Time.
feasible.
Yeah, that's what I figured too.
It's feasible. Does it make best business interests? I don't know. I don't think so. I think
Okay.
Tesla's a private company right now. Definitely, it's doing a thing. And also, once you're at that bigger level, there's way more considerations in terms of how to do business strategy, corporate strategy.
Wabi?
Yeah, man, I
Yeah.
want to add on to that. I wanted to ask you, do you think this could potentially add a whole new factor to the gig economy? As we see with some virtual assistants, there is a lag in human communication. Sometimes when you actually have like a more complex problem, the AI will only give you like three or four different options that are basically the same choices that you have at the start of the conversation. So, do you think with augmented reality becoming more of a thing, do you think that could add a whole new portion to the economy relative to what happened during the dot-com boom, as Michael says, right? And this can go into other Web 2 industries like Uber, Lyft, right? Even Twitter, right? Say your account gets locked, how long is it going to take you to reach actual customer support? Quite a while, right? And I think with cryptocurrencies, as far as they're concerned, when they're implemented into this thing, I'm aware that Twitter is going to have these things called Twitter coins, right? And Twitter initial offerings. And what you can have is essentially, say you're a contributor, like a content contributor to Twitter, perhaps you can earn like some sort of point systems to land a gig here and there, and land the job within that metaverse instead of giving your social security and all those things. Like, you can have something implemented like online social credit system. I believe China has that. And when Michael talks about us entering a whole new digital age, I'm seeing Twitter as a sector of that, and also of course Chat GPT. There could be virtual assistants added to that, and I still think, yeah, AI is going to be implemented, but you're still going to have humans in the background working on all these sort of things, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot to take in. But in terms of Twitter, I've been saying that we need like a Western WeChat, um, you know, competitor, or like something that's equivalent to WeChat. Facebook tried to do this, but Facebook failed. And I've always said like Twitter has been best placed to do that. And I think Elon Musk also sees that. And I think what we're kind of seeing with Twitter is it's going to become more of a payments platform. I don't know if you saw like 2 3 weeks ago, Twitter filed a request to become a payment processor. So I think we're going to see a lot more action in terms of monetization. And Elon Musk has said that he wants to, give ad revenue back to creators. So I think that's gonna definitely help. And in terms of AI, if you look at my most recent thread on Google, I definitely think that you should. I think Google should bring back augmented reality. Snapchat are trying to do this with their Snap glasses. I think Facebook has a partnership with Ray Bans. I'm not sure, but again, yeah, like it's slowly kind of creeping up. And I think what's being built is the infrastructure. So before like a paradigm shift can take place, there has to be infrastructure kind of built. There has to be people actually starting to you know um, enter the space and start colonizing the space and laying roads, for instance. So we can have like high speed cars on those roads. So I think yeah, augmented reality is going to be one for sure. But I think what we need right now is just more platforms. Maybe like its own like computer scripting language. There just needs to be more fundamentals kind of built in augmented reality, and I'm way more bullish on augmented reality than I am, full on virtual reality. And my final point on gig economy, yeah, I think I put out a tweet yesterday. I think it was that having a job and a career was a very 20th century way of making money and making a living. So I think what we are going to see this century is a move away from offices. We already did know with COVID that kind of accelerated it. All the smartest people I know, they do not want to work in an office. They all want to work remote, and they want to work for companies that are in the highest paying countries, America. So they all want to work for American companies, even though they're in.
Hey, I have a question about the metaverse, for example. Do you think we'll ever get to the point where it is a full immersive experience, because I could see that being insanely bullish.
Could we have a fully immersive metaverse experience? Is that the
Like
question?
fully immersive. Like I put on these goggles and I feel, I see, I actually think I'm there. It's a second life, but really a second life, if you know what I'm saying. Do you think that's feasible, or is that a pipe dream at this point?
At this point, it's a pipe dream. Is it feasible
Mhm.
eventually? Yeah, but I think in like way longer than people expect. I think like 15 years. And the
Yeah,
reason
well,
why I
that's not
say,
that long, though, bro. I mean, 15 years really isn't that long for what I'm
I
talking
mean,
about.
15 years for it to be like, to be a paradigm shift or starting to be a paradigm shift. Like right now, like you should buy like the Facebook Oculus headset. You try it on, you
I've
play
done it.
like,
I've done it.
yeah, but like, why you're not there right now? There's very logical reasons as to why not. Because it's, you get bored after a while, and you start feeling sick, and you get disoriented. I think there has been a use case of like experiences. So a lot of companies, they have like in like shopping malls, like in Dubai or whatever, they have virtual reality experiences. So you can go to like a mall, and they have like a virtual reality section where you can play virtual reality games. I think there's a use case to that. I think for like totally immersive, I think the hardware you need right now is just like top of the line.
Yeah,
To
it's
even
definitely
like get,
far away.
yeah.
You would need sensors and everything. I mean, you wouldn't just need goggles. Like to make it fully immersive, you would need sensors, body sensors, everything. But the reason why I bring that up, because I think that would be, for NFTs and crypto, that would be one of the most bullish scenarios that could ever pop up, in my opinion.
I think that's exactly what Saga's working on, man. I truly think what's being developed within the Cosmos ecosystem, man, that software development kit, dude, is probably the greatest thing to ever come in tech, more so than Ethereum, in my opinion. And they're both around the same age as far as conception is concerned. And like their main focus is how to streamline this into retail, and they're focused on onboarding people in everyday life. They're not focused on individuals like us, right, that are enthusiastic about trading, DeFi, Web3, whatever you want to call it, with NFTs and the metaverse. They're focused on, that kid who's 15 playing Fortnite and Call of Duty, and how this technology is going to be used in his everyday life after he graduates college, right? These individuals are thinking like 10 to 15 years down the line, as you guys are saying, whether as most of these crypto companies that are going to be extinct within 3 to 5 years, they're focused on, oh, how do I increase my runway, right? Like what's the next Ponzi that I can do, right? And I think you're gonna come to a point where, now, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but there might be a trend where a lot of these companies end up releasing equity to like institutional investors, and perhaps you can have a future where if some of these companies lay ground in America, they could be listed within the Nasdaq index, or maybe even the S&P 500. What would you guys suggest about that?
Well, what's the main question? Can these companies become listed on an exchange? Is that what you're asking?
Pretty much, yeah, because when you,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah,
think
Michael,
eventually. Mhm.
Michael, because when you look at companies like Matic, dude, they're going corporate, full corporate, and there's a possibility that they might open like a few equity rounds to institutional investors. They're partnered left and right with brick and mortar industries, and the last time that I saw that happen, right, where like a tech CEO is talking to everybody and talking about the end user, the quote unquote customer, like Jeff Bezos used to say. It wouldn't shock me in 10 to 15 years, walking into a store that says, X, Y, and Z store powered by Polygon, right?
No
So
question that these companies will be listed on the Nasdaq at some point. I think the Nasdaq has their eyes on listing. I mean, you look at Binance, you look at all these exchanges out there. That's competition to the Nasdaq, and in my opinion, there is no question that eventually cryptos will be listed New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ listed entities. It's just a matter of time. They have to legitimatize themselves first. A lot of these entities are fly by night. They don't really do anything. They have no customers, complete smoke and mirrors. But once that actually changes, you will see them listed on the New York Stock Exchange, on the NASDAQ, things of that nature. You'll probably see whatever chain exchange and crypto survives over the next 3 to 5 years, say, I wouldn't be surprised if they got bought out. I would expect them to get bought out by an entity like the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. No question.
My follow-up question to you, Michael, is given the fact that these assets are denominated in tokens, how exactly would stock splits work, right? I wanted to know.
That I don't know. I mean,
that.
maybe it would be a separate separate exchange altogether. I doubt it would be listed with stocks. It would probably be the NASDAQ crypto exchange, something of that nature.
Yeah, and I know Fidelity and also Ken Griffith from Citadel. They're trying to have some framework around that. So that's gonna be pretty interesting, and also how dividends are gonna work. So as you guys know, things like Matic and things like Cosmos, they're proof of stake, right? So you earn some yield on that. That is essentially your dividend. And if we look at what's happening with Ethereum, right, with their proof of stake network, they're what is it called? OFAC compliant. So I think as far as regulation is concerned, perhaps the yield will be a bit more fixed if you're getting your yield from any of these exchanges. It's a bit too difficult to try to see how that's going to work out, but I'm definitely excited for the next 10 to 15 years. Truthfully, man, despite what happened in 2022, I couldn't be more excited for the future. Honestly, I really, really, really couldn't.
I
So
think the two biggest things in crypto that we have to pay attention to is who is going to build the digital infrastructure for the CBDCs. Companies like QNT, I mean, XRP is another example that people are excited about. I think that's the biggest thing. Who is going to, when these countries finally do their digital currency, which in my opinion is at least, it's a 70% chance of absolutely happening. I'm leaving 30% open that the people reject it. Nobody wants it, things of that nature. But I would be looking for the people who are building the infrastructure for that. And then secondly, I think, once the metaverse gets the technology to become what it could become, I think that is one of the most wildly bullish things we could possibly imagine. When you think about all the possibilities of things that can be literally born out of thin air, in essence, basically pulled out of thin air, and being, you could charge people for these things that you create out of thin air. When you think of the possibility of that and all the implications of that, the currency that's used in game, I think those are the two most exciting sectors, in my opinion, of crypto.
Hello.
Yeah, what's going on, Reed? I want to welcome you to the panel. My name is Wabi.
Yeah,
I host these spaces every day,
I know,
or
man. I
almost
know.
every day. Oh, you're
Yeah,
you're you're a
yeah. I'm a
participant.
lurker,
Welcome.
man. I always listen to these spaces. They're very interesting. And the other day there was a guy here. I think his name is EXO or something. And
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys
yeah,
were talking about. You were saying there's not a lot of places where you can share alpha, right? It's better now, and I think this is one of these spaces that are really
thank you,
good to share
thank you,
them,
brother.
and it's very it's a thing that's only 100 people listening right now, but these are the times where you can find the most alpha. So Wabi, I'm also a big fan of Atom. I've been in this market since I think 2017, and I'm a big enthusiast of Cosmos, and I wanted to share some projects, Wabi. Maybe you're interested in them. They're not released yet. They are in progress. So I thought I heard you were talking about Saga, right? The layer 1 EVM on Atom. And what do you think about Anoma, the privacy blockchain that's being built on Atom? I don't know if you ever heard about that one.
I have not, brother. I have not. The only products that I'm really diving deep into on all angles from what they're doing in marketing, from what their community is talking about, for what they do on spaces and conferences, things like that. The only ones that I'm really giving all my attention to is number one, Saga. That's pretty much my priority project right now. The second one is Celestia, and the third one is Say Network. And behind that, I'm trying to keep.
Oh yeah, Say Network, the layer one, right?
Yeah. And I'm trying to keep up to date with all things that Terraform Labs is doing. Because from what it seems like, they did get some sort of like a bailout. I mean, they're hiring, they're building all these products, so there is some backer in the background, like helping them. The phoenix rising from the ashes narrative, right? So that's really, as far as Cosmos Tech, that's all I'm focused on, because I'm also focused on what Aztec Network is doing on zero knowledge proofs and all of that.
Yeah. So,
on Ethereum, yeah, there's a whole lot of things, man.
yeah, I
It's
wanted
pretty
to.
difficult. So go ahead, man.
No,
Tell me
because the
what
way
projects
I
you're looking at.
research these, yeah, well, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, they're just shit coins, right? I mean, I try to find them early on, before a bull market, and the way I research them is I just follow the VCs. So I don't know if you know this website called Cypher Hunter, and it's this certain website. It's like LinkedIn, and you can follow all the big VCs. So from Polychain Capital to Pantera Capital, and you can look what they're investing in. So Wabi, if you have nothing to do, look up into Altlayer. It's Optimism Arbitrum competitor. It's also they have like $20 million funding. I don't know if you heard about Aptos or Sui, but there's another one called Linera. They are like a competitor of Aptos and Sui, and then you have Aleo. It's a layer one privacy blockchain. They raised around $80 million. I think they're gonna get released later this year. And then you have another one. The last one is called Espresso. It's another privacy layer one blockchain that they also raised like $50 million. So I just wanted to share that to you, Wabi, so you can just research in those if you want to.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, Reda,
if you have
what's
any
the website called real quick?
Yeah, it's called Cypher Hunter, and I don't know why it's not a paid website, because it's some like through Cypher Hunter I identified all these coins like super early on, and top VCs you really want to follow are Binance Labs, Coinbase Ventures. They have a lot of money to spend. Polychain Capital, they're my favorites because they're top tier. Like they really manage their risk. I don't think they got involved within the Terra crash or whatever. Like they don't invest in too many projects, just the ones that they have huge conviction in, which I like. Let me check. I have some more, so you can just if you guys want to
found
note
the
them
website.
down.
Thank you, man. That's
Hey,
definitely
Reda, just drop them. Just drop them in the comments, dude. Any other projects, just drop it in the comment section in the space, brother. But I want to thank you, man. And if you have any,
Sure.
yeah, man, if you have any contact information on any of these projects, feel free to DM me. I'm always looking at projects as far as devs and their founders are concerned, and feature them on here. Feel free to DM me, brother.
Yeah, just make it really easy for yourself. Even the ones that only do TA, for example, I do TA and FA. But if you don't want to do like a lot of research and stuff, just go to Cypher Hunter and basically just follow the money. Basically, just follow the VCs, look what they invest in, and look when they're gonna release the token. They always release it before the bull market, and within the token vesting, or you can see how the money is allocated. And for me, the marketing fund is the most important thing, because they give a lot of money to influencers to share the token, and you want to get in before they do the marketing round. So it's really easy. So again, cypherhunter.com, and then you can just make an account and look for the VCs. So there's a thing here, right? The chat.
Yeah, just put it in there, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Nicholas, what's going on, brother? Good to have you up here.
Hi, everyone. I have a question for Rico.
And what is your opinion in the monetization of communities? And the prime example of this being this shift among some former members or participants, whatever you call it, of prop Twitter into what we now know as the Malady Maker community.
So I got the first bit of that question. I didn't really get the second bit.
Yeah, just the question. What is your opinion on the monetization of communities?
Okay, cool. So I think in general, there's been a lot of infrastructure being built. There's been a lot of systems to allow communities to monetize. What I'm not sure on is the ability for everyone to be part of the community. I just don't see that working out. You know, no one can be part of 20 different communities, and that's what we're kind of seeing. We're seeing a sort of like factoring, factor. Yeah, so like it's breaking up. It's all fracturing. So the thing is, what we might see is like a coalescence of communities. So like, you know, larger communities taking precedence over smaller ones, and smaller ones just being turned into like a small subsection of a larger one. I think that might be the case. Like, you know how DAOs have sub DAOs. I mean, that's been a trend recently that's been taking place. I think that's the main kind of thing. In terms of like tooling for communities or DAOs or whatever, I think, yeah, there's a lot of money moving into the space. And I think it's going to be easier than ever to do that. But I think what really needs to happen is some sort of, you know, operating system for communities to be, you know, to be taken hold of. Maybe there are tools like that out there, but there's, you know, it's all over the place. There's, you know, I think there is space for people to, or a company to kind of come in and just dominate the space and, you know, give the most amount of money back in. I don't think we'll see that anytime soon, mainly because, you know, VC money allows people to compete, even if they're losing money. So yeah, there's a lot of takeaways from that. I think there's people going to get community fatigue. I think NFTs and having a upper limit are a pretty good way of like marginalizing against that. So, you know, as demand goes up, you know, the price goes up to be in that community. I think that's a relatively stable model. I think that's going to stay, but I don't think people are going to be able to like be part of, you know, hundreds of communities or you know, as many as there are going to be. I think what we might see is, yeah, like more and more people coming together with their communities and, you know, making large communities.
Payne, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, what's up, Gray? I was going to ask you about AI and the future it plays in, like, basically the economy itself, where, you know, we're seeing lots of instances where, like, you know, people are speculating that ChatGPT could take, like, people's jobs, in the sense of it could take people's jobs for, you know, journalism, even computer science. And so I'm wondering if you're in the camp that it's going to like create a bunch of new jobs, or if it's going to more so like eliminate entire industries. I was just curious for your perspective on that.
Yeah, so with any sort of industrial shift or with any sort of like technological shift, for instance, let's say with you know, mechanical looms and weavers back in the 18th century, you know, people were smashing windows and burning factories because they didn't want to replace like manual labor. And then if you look at Uber, you know, there was like taxi drivers protesting on the streets in some countries to get rid of Uber because it's such a big shift and, you know, suppressed wages so much. I think there's two effects. There's two, you know, views we can take on this. The short term is that there will be a contraction of like, you know, demand for these kind of things, but in the long run, that it will absolutely 100% create new jobs. But people will have to get used to increased productivity per person. So right now, ChatGPT is just like, you know, let's say before you had like 1 unit of output productivity per hour. Let's say ChatGPT makes that 1.5. So instead of hiring 9 people, you hire 6, for instance. So it will affect demand in some regards, but it'll also be more creation in the long run. Just like how, you know, because loom machines or weave machines, whatever you want to call them, because they were in the 18th century, like, you know, reshaping and increasing productivity, there was a short-term contraction in demand, but the long term, what happened was, you know, they started working elsewhere. Their labor shifted. So I think that's going to be the same kind of cases. You know, I just don't know exactly where they're going to go. I don't know exactly what kind of jobs they're going to be created. I think more and more people are going to be creating, you know, online and living online. I think that's going to be a much more of a kind of, you know, larger precedent. I think, you know, like the sovereign individual, the diamond age. I think those kind of concepts where people make a living off, you know, large amount of people. I think that's going to become more and more common.
Appreciate it, man.
To
And
add
then
to that, Britt, I think that things like ChatGPT, number one, well, let me just finish my first point. I believe it's going to raise the threshold of intelligence and ability to be successful. I believe that the people on the top of the spectrum who are already really good at what they do, ChatGPT will make them better. People who are average are going to be completely phased out of the market at some point. Now, on the flip side of the coin, I believe that there is going to be a portion of society that is going to gravitate towards human beings, because if you look at AI, I could tell when I'm reading AI most of the time. It's very soulless. And, I played around with ChatGPT. It's cool. I'm not overly impressed yet. For someone of average intelligence and average curiosity, it's amazing. For people who want a little bit more, it's not quite there yet. But one thing it does lack is soul, in my opinion. And I could always kind of tell when something is AI generated. But I will say, back to the first point, and I think you agree with me, that it's going to raise the threshold of intelligence and ability to be successful in the world.
I agree with that. And then
Facts.
I was gonna ask Greta another question. So, considering everything that we just said, if you were to tell a young person,
Yeah, I think once people start figuring out the prompts too, and like really using it in a more intelligent manner, because there's so many people I talk to, even business owners I ran into last weekend that didn't even know what ChatGPT 3 was. So you living under a rock or something?
no, I think we
But
definitely live in a
yeah,
bubble on Twitter where people just
it's going to be a radical shift in how people do business. But I think one of the biggest opportunities that I don't hear people talking about is upskilling and like educational opportunities, because we're going to have an enormous amount of people that have no use and value to society as AI takes their jobs. But we're going to have to upskill and reskill a lot of those people. Some of them will have to go in the trades or manufacturing or production, etc. But there's a big opportunity play there that it's interesting. I just haven't heard anyone really talking about it.
There's
What
going to
was
be,
it?
it's going to become a creator's economy. And I think what you just said, trades, and the more intellectual people, more artistic people they're gonna gravitate towards the creator's economy, where people pursue their interests rather than, having to slave away at a job, so to say. So there's going to be a ton of opportunity, but I think the trades are going to be a good place for people to go. Whether that gets taken over by robotics at some point is the question, though.
yeah. Just to finish my question real
Well,
quick, Grit, I was gonna say, what
yeah.
would you tell someone that's like, let's say, 18 to 20? What would you tell them to position themselves in the best way to take advantage of this paradigm shift that's ultimately coming? Would you tell them to study computer science? Would you tell them to leverage their social influence? Like, what would you tell them to focus on? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to kind of like, you know, return thoughts on just what's been said earlier, I do think, yeah, reskilling and trades is definitely going to be there still. I think it's a lot harder to disrupt, you know, blue collar trades So I think that's going to kind of come back. I think what's going to happen in general is what we're seeing with technology, or what we're seeing as a large meta trend, is that trends themselves are becoming quicker and faster. So, like even with crypto, it feels like, the cycle's gone quicker than previous cycles, and, and so on and so on. And even with like product trends and fashion, I think, even memes, everything is just like increasing speed. So I think what the kind of, large skill to learn would be to be able to execute really quick. So if any 18-year-old is able to like, execute very quick, like they just have to make a few good moves in order for like for them to make it essentially. And from what I've seen with a lot of people, I think that's generally true. They make one or two good moves and they capitalize on opportunistic scenarios very quickly. In a going back to your kind of like question of like what to do specifically, I'd say, yeah, building an audience is like it's just one of those things that's always going to be there. I think it's a very good asset to have for anyone. If you're old or you're young, building community around you, or having some sort of reputation around your online persona, I think is definitely going to be a valuable asset, and I think that asset will become more valuable as time goes on. For instance, Mr. Beast is an extreme example. He's one in a billion, let's say, but with him, like he says his like online presence is worth like 10 bill for him to to buy him out. And if you do the math, that's how much if you're to buy a company, that's how much money he makes. He makes an X amount of revenue per year, and you multiply that by 5 or 6, and then you get to 10 billion. So I think having an online presence and monetizing it, back when I started posting online, it was kind of looked down upon to kind of monetize. That's completely shifted. And if I could tell myself one thing, it would be to do that, or to start monetizing online presences a lot sooner. So, and you start treating it a bit more like a possible future. So I think that's one thing. I think learning code, I think there is like I think you have to understand how machines think. I didn't study any formal sort of computer science, but I understand how machine thinks. I know about binary code. I know machine level code, whatever. So I understand like levels of abstraction about that, and I think anyone should kind of understand that as well. And then if you're learning to grow online and building presence, you're going to learn a lot of things in terms of how to communicate, how to spot trends, how to market yourself, and so on and sell. I think yeah, within that kind of answer kind of encapsulates the advice I would give.
I couldn't agree more, Greg. I think the ability to the skill of gaining attention is going to be extremely valuable. And when you combine what you do in life and you also understand how to build an audience around that, you are now a very valuable individual. I believe micro influencers are going to be very, very well off in the future. So just to add to that, I think one of the most important skills you could develop in the future, sales, persuasion, psychology, and the ability to gain attention, I think are going to be invaluable for from this point forward. They always have been, but I think now more than ever, they are much more mandatory to learn, in my opinion.
Thanks for the answers, guys. That was great. Great responses.
Hey, I see
Cool.
we do have some speaker requests. I brought up one individual. Before you guys start speaking, number one rule, no yelling over each other. Let one speaker finish. Once he starts speaking, wait for your turn. No cursing, and be mindful and be respectful at all times for our speaker panel. So with that being said, Bahad, what's going on, brother? How are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good. So, what I wanted to kind of ask is, there's what Elon Musk is doing with the brain implants and all of that. How do you guys see that and the next level of machine learning or AI merging, and what kind of um, Oracle solutions would allow that to happen? Because Chainlink is one Oracle solution that facilitates getting data or truthful data, utilizing it. Are there any upcoming solutions that can compete with Chainlink, and how that Oracle solution will allow the integration of AI and brain implants?
Yeah,
Maybe
that's that is a bit out of my field, but I do understand that Chainlink sort of has a monopoly as far as financial oracles are concerned. I mean, you're talking about something that has a history since the inception of Uniswap, MakerDAO, right? So I don't really think there's going to be a competitor to Chainlink. Um, DeFi is pretty much on the backbone of Chainlink, right? The actual technology stack, not so much the token aspect of it. But as far as that's relating to things like chip implants or any of that stuff, I think more along the lines it would relate to these gadgets that they're going to have for augmented reality in the metaverse, where you're able to feel sensations. So I hope that answers your question.
So I'll add on to that. So the idea of Elon Musk and why he wants to build Neuralink. If you listen to Ray Kurzweil, which is one of the head guys in innovation at Google, he wrote back in 2000, or even like earlier than that, 1999 or so, by the year 2100, which is still a little bit away off, but by the year 2100, a computer will have the brain processing capacity of 1 trillion human brains. I want you to think about that for 1 second. Right now, I believe the computer has the brain capacity of a mouse. Okay. So within 77 years from where we are right now, it is expected that computers will have the processing power of 1 trillion human brains working together at once, all that computing power. So what Elon Musk is trying to do, in essence, a lot of people think he's evil for doing this. I myself would never get the chip, but I'm a little older, so I may not have to worry about that. But I believe as you get, younger people will have to consider it, because you will basically be a special ed student compared to someone who has it. And you also will not be able to compete with AI at some point. So what Elon Musk is trying to do, a lot of people, are on very polarized on the subject, but his claims are that he is giving human beings the ability to compete in this type of world. And whether you want to believe that or not, I myself would never put a chip in my brain. I would be scared shit of the ramifications of that, because there's a lot of dark side to that as well. But the angle he is coming from is that you will not be able to compete in the new world without the chip. So that is a question you have to ask yourself ultimately.
To add to
All right.
that,
With that being said, Gritcold just sent me a DM saying that he has to go for dinner. Gritcold, I see you're a listener now. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your Saturday to join us to talk all things tech. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to having you on pretty soon, brother, to join hopefully our regular speaker panel if we do decide to move forward with these weekend type spaces. If you guys enjoy spaces like these, feel free to follow us here at Because Bitcoin on Twitter and turn on bell notifications. My name is Wabi. I host these almost every day, and the time is pretty deterministic and relative to our guest time, given time zone differences and what have you. But I do try to do these as far as the weekdays are concerned, more towards the evenings. So if you enjoy our crypto specific content, such as this, feel free to follow us at Because Bitcoin. And we do host other shows Monday through Friday when it comes to things like the equity and macroeconomic sort of markets. So feel free to follow us here, Because Bitcoin. We're gonna start wrapping up here, guys, because our guest of the day did leave. So if anybody in the audience wants to come up and give any statements, I'm sorry, or any last questions, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we will begin to wrap up to not only respect our other guest time, Michael, but also to be respective of our producer's time. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Z Zenruko, who's pretty much been working every day with me. And he was actually out to get a device to record this. I believe he had some technical difficulties with his old one. So I want to give a shout out to our producers. They work they work pretty hard with us night and day. So shout out to them and the other members of the Because Bitcoin team.
Got that new iPhone, baby.
I want to give a thank you to holder of the fire, Michael, a good personal friend of mine. We pretty much started speaking near the top of the last market, and he's an absolute G, a pleasure to talk to over the phone. An individual with over 15 years of experience trading markets. I believe over 20. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. Because I know you worked. I know you worked at Wall Street for over 10 years.
Yeah, I worked on Wall Street from 1999 to about 2015.
What a boss, bro! You got that accent, bro. That Wolf of Wall Street accent, man. How you doing?
New York,
Forget
New York.
about it.
Yeah, I knew you're from New York immediately.
Forget about it, man. Forget about it. So with that being said, Michael Payne, any last thoughts, guys?
No, just in general. I mean, I'm really interested to see where the markets are trading over the next months, 2 months or so. I mean, this rally has been pretty impressive. I mean, we obviously saw the momentum shift about 3-4 weeks ago in Bitcoin. If you were just looking at the chart, you would have saw it. And it's interesting because I could make a case for us going a lot lower, and I can make a case for us going substantially higher. But with all that being said, the short term don't matter. I would be focusing on the long term. We are at the what's the word? The inflection point of a major shift or shift, whatever you want to call it, in innovation. I think, since 2010 when the iPhone came out, we really haven't had much innovation, in my opinion. I mean, things have pretty much stagnated, and that is all over, in my opinion. And we're going to see huge shifts in and innovation in technology. And I think if you get in front of these trends long term, that you will absolutely crush it and set yourself up for life. So do your research, find out about emerging trends on a macro scale, and then find the assets that are taking advantage of them and buy them when they're down, and buy them cheap, and make sure they're real assets. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity, despite all the craziness going on, a tremendous amount of opportunity over the coming, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the next spaces with you. Probably like late March after Q1 is completed. We'll probably catch up and kind of give a breakdown of how everything goes. Because I do think after Q1, we'll have a clear indication of how the rest of the year is going to play out. I'm of the belief that crypto has already bottomed for the most part. I think we're in a super cycle. I think the super cycle is actually going to happen. So in the words of Suzu, right? If we're in a super cycle, right, then you want to be long. If you're not, if you're not, you're not going to make it.
Well, I could say this. I mean, we're close to the halving, and I also think that there is a small possibility that even if stocks go down, crypto may hold up better than stocks.
Thank you,
There's
dude.
reasons for that, and I think it's a possibility. So we'll see.
I've been preaching that for a minute, saying that I think we could have a potential where there's a higher beta to the upside and lower beta to the downside, considering everything that happened last year. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my closing thoughts. Thank you, Wabi.
No problem, man. No problem, guys. There will be no space tomorrow, guys. I want to give myself a little bit of a break. There's going to be no Sunday space. So just a heads up. We'll be back on Monday with Market Check at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, then Market Talk at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and then myself at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be having a few members of the Cosmos community up on our spaces. Moving forward, I am going to host my spaces in more of a mega space. There will be no more one-on-one sort of spaces. I just want to make that pretty clear. I'd rather much enjoy these roundtable spaces, and it gives you guys more perspective as far as viewpoints on this market and emerging trends, such as today. Right, we talked about AI, we talked about the metaverse, virtual reality, augmented reality. How things such as the digital asset space, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, can be implemented within things like traditional markets such as the S&P index and the NASDAQ indices and what have you. And I do believe that's going to happen within the next 20 years.
Yeah, one thing we didn't mention, Wabi, which I would definitely be keeping an eye on, is robotics, and not only robotics, but how those robots will learn, which is cloud learning. And when you think about the possibilities here, it's absolutely mind blowing. Remember in the Matrix when Neo could just download whatever skill he
I,
wanted? Imagine doing that with a robot.
I do believe within Polkadot, within the parachain ecosystem, there is this project called Robonomics, and they're actually Robonomics. It's called Robonomics, and I believe that company is working with the team that wants to quote unquote go on the mission to Mars. And yeah, that's a whole nother topic of discussion, but there are blockchain technologies that are working within the tech sector to help facilitate those journeys. So the project is called Robonomics. It's built on Polkadot. Some pretty cool stuff with what they're doing. But they're mostly private. I understand they have a token, but um, it's like a dual token system, and I'm not really sure how it works. I'm only aware of what the company is trying to do. They're like AI, robotics, and all that stuff, and who knows how that's gonna play out. I think that's gonna be something that you're gonna see again 20 years down the line. But
Yeah, you got to
I'm
be
excited.
careful. You got to be careful with a lot of these companies that like to throw, back in the 90s, as you know, everybody put .com after their name and the company absolutely ripped. Now you're going to see people putting AI and robotics and all that good stuff next to their name and the metaverse. You really have to do your homework, especially in crypto, because there's no regulation and any idiot could just get a nice web page, a few good bios, a nice web page, a flashy website, and hire a few influencers with a catchy word, and all of a sudden that coin rips and everybody gets rugged. You got to be really careful, especially now, because everyone's going to be taking advantage of all these keywords like we're mentioning right now, AI, robotics. You really got to do your homework. I mean, a pump's a pump, as you guys know. I know a lot of people like to buy scams, but definitely don't hold the bag.
I agree with you, man. Respect the pump. That being
Mhm.
said, I want to thank everyone for joining us here on our Saturday segment of Crypto World Radio, presented to you by Because Bitcoin. My name is Wabi. Feel free to follow us here on Twitter and turn on bell notifications so that you can be made aware of when I do these spaces. With that being said, thank you all so much for participating. I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday or Sunday, depending on what time zone you're in. Thank you all so much. Shout out to all our speakers. Feel free to give them all a follow for the individuals in the listener audience, and I'll see you.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm gonna get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, and you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians. You would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000. Depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community. It's just math. There's really no need to overcomplicate things, not even in the slightest.